Hello and welcome to Quartzlight, your car brochure channel. In today's episode, we're going to take a look at the Fiat Croma. Hello, welcome back, and if you're new to Quartzlight, we're a car brochure channel here on YouTube looking at car brochures from around the world for the 60s, 70s, 80s and 90s and sometimes beyond that as well. So if you're interested in cars and car brochures, please consider subscribing. It really does help the channel. Anyway, today is Friday. It's usually Ford Friday. Last week we did a Fiat Friday. I thought, let's just do one more Fiat Friday. Why not, before going back to the Fords again? And today I picked the Fiat Croma, one of those sort of Type 4 platforms, which included things like the Saab 9000, the Alfa Romeo 164 and the Lancia Thema. And this is kind of like a bit of the forgotten one, really, I think, in some ways. Kind of like the not quite an exciting, you could say, but to be honest with you, I think this is my favourite of the four, weirdly enough. I think because it's such a forgotten about one, and it doesn't seem to get the sort of comments or the sort of videos on YouTube that the other three really do. I think that's why it makes me really like these, because I do like an underdog. Anyway, let's have a look at today's brochure, which is from the UK and from 1988. So here it is, this 1988 brochure for the Fiat Croma. The Croma went between sort of like 1985 and 1996, so quite a long run, and there was kind of I'm going to say a facelift, but it's facelift is too big a word, I think. A very light facelift, if we have to use that word, in 1988 when this brochure came out, which included things like the body colour underneath the bumpers, and instead of the amber indicators we got clear indicators. So there were very minor changes on there to really call it a facelift, really, but I guess it was. And of course the Croma was another of those Giugiaro designs, Ital design, of course. And overall, I don't think Fiats in general do very well in the UK. I think large Fiats, they're not really ever a big seller, and I think this was the case with the Fiat Croma as well. And of course it didn't have the sort of sporty excitement of a 164 or the luxuries of a Lancia Thema or that sort of like Saab quality you think about when you think of a Saab 9000. So I think this was kind of like a bit of a forgotten one. I wonder how many of these Chromas are still left in the UK. Higher spec ones got these headlamp wipe though, which isn't always an exciting moment, I think. And look at the size of them wipes, a huge wiper for the light, starting off right down there. Obviously this would have been a higher spec model to include this, and inside the brochure it does go through the different models and the different specs, so let's jump straight into it. I guess one thing I should do before I actually open it up is show you this. If I open the brochure up, the rear of the brochure kind of like shows the an extension of this photograph. Apologies for the little bit of wear on the brochure, but it is from 1988. But there's even a flap on the back page where it starts looking at the specifications, which we'll come to in a moment, that opens up to give this, let's move the camera back, huge picture of the Croma. What a lovely sort of image that is on the front of a cover. I think that's certainly worth a mention, these unusual wheels. But anyway, let's open the brochure up and learn a bit more about it. And I guess one thing I should do, I was going to just go straight into the brochure, but there is this little flap section here, and there's some nice little quotes in there. I'm not going to read it all, but let's just jump to these little sort of remarks from various people. So there's a little caption here from Autocar from October 87. Brilliantly designed, the Croma provides generous interior space both front and rear, and a pretty big boot. And a little bit of a quote from the Times as well, from July 87. Particularly rewarding on the long motorway journeys. There is still plenty of power in reserve when you put your foot down. So obviously there were some good comments about this. Like I say, big Fiats, they never really did that well in the UK, so I don't think these little quotes really tempted many people into a Fiat Croma, but nevertheless, I don't think they were bad cars. And then of course when we flip the flap over the other way, it shows an extremely long page showing us, it looks a little bit like a saloon, but in fact it's a hatchback, I guess. Liftback is probably a better word for it, but quite a nice little design for those particularly who prefer the sort of design cues of a saloon over a hatchback. But obviously the practicality of a hatchback is what it's all about. It's also telling us in here it's got a CD figure, the coefficient figure of 0.32, so a reasonably slippery shape. I think we'll just zoom in on some of these images before we get further into the brochure. This first page is talking about the base model, the Fiat Croma 2-litre CHT. So this is a base model when it's talking about. You can see that from quite base looking wheel trims there and a plain interior. So we've gone right to the rear, open hatch, looking how practical that is with the seats folded down. I always particularly like the rear lights of these, that sort of late 80s sort of like smoky glass type design. I quite like it. You also notice on these, like I said, we were talking about that very light facelift. The older versions kind of like had a smooth bit of plastic between the rear lights. These I probably can't even make it out, but there's kind of like ridged plastic. There were such minor little details that they facelifted that I don't know why they really bothered, but there we go. There was a bigger facelift later on though in 91 where that was more like a proper facelift, I think. Now if we go down, it kind of like gives you all the little seating options. Nothing really out of the ordinary by today's standards, of course. And then let's just swivel over and look at those quite interesting seats. Light coloured seats, but then we've got this sort of, oops, if I don't knock the camera. So these light coloured seats, and there's a little bit of a dark headrest design, which is quite strange. And then I must admit, I don't particularly like the dash design. It is quite plasticky. In there, we also get a little bit of a glimpse at some of the fabric there. Telling us the Croma 2-litre CHT luxurious tweed cloth trim. Very nice. And then we also have a little bit of a CHT 90 brake horsepower and an exceptionally high torque figure, which is kind of like demonstrating there and saying power to the top speed of 113. There we go. It's not particularly very high, is it really? But anyway, let's turn the page and see what more information we can find. So next page now, we're kind of like looking at the interior again. It says Fiat Croma IE Super, luxurious new interior, extra power, computer controlled fuel system. Nice. So we've got these rather nice seats, a little bit of colour. I always like a little bit of colour in interior just to liven things up. Again, we've got this very slab-sided dash. Like I said, I'm not a fan of that, but that's just my own personal opinion. We've also got this rather nice little armrest on there as well. I think we'll have a look at some of this text though. So first of all, it tells us this one model up, the Croma IE Super, luxurious interior features, striped velour upholstery. We like a bit of velour. Driver's seat adjusts for height and lumbar. And then it goes on to tell us one glance at the interior will be enough to convince you of the Croma IE Super's high standard of trim and equipment. Distinctive striped velour covers the seats and door panels. And then we also get central door locking, electric front windows, height adjustable driver's seat and lumbar support, and electrically adjustable heated door mirrors contribute further to the Croma IE Super's impressive specifications. So performance of this one is a little bit better, so 120 bhp. This is a fuel injected system by the looks of it. 62 miles per hour in 9.9 seconds. That's not too bad for the size of the car. 119 top speed, really not too bad at all. Moving up the model range again, this is the Croma IE SX. Quite a nicely spec'd one, this one, I think. We'll start by looking at this interior again, and then some of the extra features you get on this higher spec model. So, similar sort of lovely seats by looks of it. Again, on the door cards as well, which is quite nice. And then some kind of quite high-end audio system there as well. And a look at the sunroof. It's electronically operated, of course. So a little bit more features on this higher spec model, of course. But more importantly, this is the Croma IE SX, and it's got the headlamp wash wipe. I'm tempted to go for this model just for the headlamp wash wipe, I think. And we'll certainly look at the specifications in a bit more detail at the back of this brochure. First, let's just have a quick look at some of the text. So it starts by saying it's got that same engine, same performance as the previous model, that IE Super. We've got electric rev counter, check control panel, central locking, high quality digital stereo that we had a little bit of a look at. We've also got tinted glass and rear sun blinds. It says, but that's where the resemblance ends, because the Croma IE SX is even more lavishly equipped. Power operated tilt slide sunroof, headlamp wash wipe, and for peace of mind of driver and passenger alike, electronic ABS is standard. In fact, the way the SX stops is every bit as impressive as the way it goes, apparently. Obviously, ABS is just something we kind of like take for granted today. Top model loveliness, the car you kind of aspired to have now, the top of the range model at this time, the Croma Turbo IE. A little bit of extra performance on this one, and this is the car you really wanted. Let's zoom in on some of these moody pictures. It starts by telling us the Croma Turbo IE, the luxurious flagship of the Croma range, performance with sophisticated styling, fuel-injected engine with intercooled turbocharger gives 155 bhp and 174 pound-foot torque. Bosch ABS with ventilated front discs, close ratio gearbox, sports handling and road holding. And then if we move down, we've still got that wash wipe system. Looks like we've got a couple of driving lamps by the looks of it. Nice alloy wheels, which unfortunately we can't see because this particular example is in motion. Interior wise, probably my favourite seats as well. I do like these blue seats. So the Croma IE sumptuous velvet corduroy front seats. That's what you want. Electrically adjusted and heated. Lovely interior. Turbo badge in the centre of the steering wheel. That's what you really wanted in the 80s when the turbo was an exciting thing to have. So I'll put it in red. Means speed, means performance, means fun. We do have this rather unusual little electronic display thing here. That's quite nice, and a scatter of buttons randomly here and there that you probably can't find when you're driving. It says the Croma Turbo IE soft grip sports wheel. Easy to read instruments include oil pressure, turbo boost and oil temperature gauges. Electronic check panel monitors 13 essential safety functions. Programmable cabin temperature system is electronically controlled. Radio may vary from model shown. Even though I'm not a big fan of the dashboard on the Chromas, I think it's a bit too slab-sided, but that does look all of the fancy, doesn't it? Okay, text now, and this is interesting, isn't it? 0 to 62, 7.8 seconds, maximum speed 131. Not a bad car. I'm sure there's lots of turbo lag somewhere in there, but I bet it was a really fun car to be had, and this is what I really mean about the Croma. These are very much forgotten cars. When we think about the performance versions, we always think about the Alfa Romeo version, think about luxury versions, although and to some extent this is a bit of a forgotten one. We kind of think of the Lancia. If we look at the safe versions, we'd go for a Saab, but here we go. This has a lot of that. I mean, it's a nice sort of performance. It's not breathtakingly fast, but I'm sure it was a lot of fun for a large family car. Very much forgotten, and out of all of them, this is the model I would pick. Actually, it's a bit of a dark horse, and you know, like I said, I always like the underdog, and I think this is very much the underdog. It goes on to say, but more than that, is it extremely enjoyable to drive responses, responding with instant, sure-footed precision to the slightest touch of the acceleration or steering wheel, combining effortless power with effortless braking. At the heart of the turbo's sensational performance is another brilliantly engineered variant of the Croma 2-litre twin cam, this time extensively modified to match the extra loads imposed by the intercooled Garrett turbocharger. Uprated suspension features front and rear anti-roll bars, and of course we've got disc brakes all round with ABS. Exhilarating performance is complemented by high standards of driver and passenger comfort. We've also got those lovely seats, velvet corduroy trim, which are electrically adjustable, and of course we've got heated seats there as well. I do like them seats, and you know, without all that black, a bit of colour. You know, we want a bit of colour in our lives. And the heating and ventilation system can be electronically programmed to maintain the precise cabin temperatures you select. The Turbo IE offers a combination of power, safety, luxury, and a truly civilised way to travel. Now, I've no doubt in the UK, if you bought this particular version, well, if you bought a Croma in general, but even more so with the Turbo IE, I think you was a bit of an oddball, really. You were certainly the odd man out. But on the second-hand market, I'm sure there were some fantastic bargains to be had. Back page now, and I do like how Fiat sort of like, they've got the four models here side by side, so you can actually have a look, and if you're trying to pick which version you want, all these nice pictures. I think a picture tells, you know, a really good story, really shows you what extras you had when you moved over, and then of course, you know, your engine specifications and your performance at the top. We'll start with the most basic version, that 2-litre CHT with a 1995cc engine, and we'll work our way up the range. So there we go, the base model, only 90 bhp this one, only 130 miles per hour, and a 0 to 62 in a sedate 11.8 seconds. Fuel consumption, constant 56, you're getting in the 50s, which isn't bad though. So we get things like power assisted steering and, you know, adjustable steering column, so at least you do get that. Remember, this is 1988. I'm pretty sure a base model Sierras didn't have power steering as standard. Tinted glass all round. You get intermittent rear screen wash wipe. And of course they come standard with the 60-40 split seats. Moving up the range to the 2-litre IE Super, we get now an electronic fuel injection system. So, and we can also get an automatic as well. So top speeds 119 for the manual, 117 for the auto. 9.9 for the manual, 11.8 for the auto is the 0 to 62 time. So, you know, not bad really. Fuel economy has dropped a little bit though, so a constant 56 we would gain, you know, 47.1 for the manual version. So if we move down, we get things like, we've got now electronic power for touch button front window operation, central locking, which I kind of think you need on a big car even at this time. Exterior mirrors have automatic demist and are power adjusted, and we've got a height and lumbar adjustment for the perfect driver's seat comfort. Then we move up to the 2 litre IESX model. Looks like you can only get this one as a manual though. Same sort of performance figures as the manual 2 litre IE Super though. Looks like now we've got ABS, a sunroof, that nice interesting headlamp wash wipe system with those huge wipers, and rear window blinds. Moving up again, my favourite of this particular range, the 2 litre turbo IE. Top speed 131, 0-62 in 7.8 seconds. Constant 56, we're still getting 44 miles per gallon. What do we get? Well, we get a turbo which gives 0-62 in 7.8 seconds, so there we go. Straight in the reminders of this performance. We got ultra low profile tyres on wide wheels for phenomenal grip. We get front seats which are power and heated. And heating is fully programmable via electronic digital controls. And right at the very end we get this little bit of a date, February 1988 for this particular brochure. So there we go, the Fiat Croma. If you remember these Italian cars, please do jot it in the comments. Always interesting to read those. We've had a couple of Fiat Fridays. I think we'll go back to our normal schedule next Friday with our Ford Fridays. See if we can find something interesting for them. But thank you so much for watching today. It's always a pleasure having you. It's Friday, hooray, we should say that. Have a great weekend, although we are back tomorrow with a special edition version on our Saturday special. Thank you so much for watching. Please do like and subscribe if you've not done already, and we'll see you very soon. Take care and goodbye.